me without you. You are my dream. You're what dreams are made for. You are my dream. We're a three-strand cord.
Yeah. Can you feel the rhythm of the soul? That's the heartbeats, let's go. Dive in with its riches untold. Let the greatest love story unfold. And yeah, all I know, I can't fall back. God pinned the format, officiated the first wedding and all that. So I'm all strapped with love stories that recall back times we made it to the light when it looked all black. Hashtag relationship goals. Let's go where God wants us to go. We ain't gotta drive, it's just score that's outside. In His grace we can fly, there's really no downside. Can we dance to His heartbeat? Be quiet when His heart speaks. Come on, be honest when our heart meets. As we listen to our heartbeats.
You are my dream. There's no me without you.
Welcome, everybody, to the Heartbeats podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Kogan, and I want to thank you for joining us on the podcast all about that L word. You got it, love. But most specifically and most importantly, the love God has for us as demonstrated in how He brings two people together for marriage and how He is loving upon those singles, of which I am one. And I'm excited for you all to meet my new friends, the Taylors, Smokey and Kalea. And before we get to their episode, I just want to remind you all that as you are listening to their story, I want you to pay attention to what parts are sticking out to you. What parts are kind of going off in your head and resonating with you, resonating with your own life. Around here, we call that your heartbeat, which is what is God speaking to you as you're hearing their story, because He's all about encouraging you, helping you along in your journey. And He wants us to see our lives more and more through His lens, through His perspective. After their story, you will hear my heartbeat at the end, where I will share what I felt God was communicating to me as I listened to their story. And I would love to hear yours if you would share it with me. So without further ado, let's meet the Taylors. All right. Welcome, Smokey and Kalea, to the Heartbeats podcast.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, how's everybody doing?
They're doing great because they're excited to hear your all's story. And I just want to clear the air. We had a whole segment before I hit record. I call him Smokey, but you also go by Joseph or Joe. And Kay told me, she was like, I do not refer to him as Smokey. So I don't want you all to be confused. It could be Smokey or Joe. And then Kalea, I'm going to call her Kay. So we're just going to make sure we're all good on names. But y'all, I'm so excited for this conversation. We have such a random connection. I shouldn't say random anymore because Jessica Jones is like basically the producer of this podcast. But Smokey, I got to have an amazing, amazing Easter dinner at your sister's house.
Right.
In Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right.
I don't live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was there for a weekend. Had Easter at her house. You called and you went on speakerphone. And it was about a week before y'all got married.
Yeah.
And you just were dropping gems with Jessica, we were together for spring break. We were on spring break. And it was at that moment, it was like, hey, can you be on my podcast after y'all get married? So I've been waiting for this conversation for almost 6 months now. So, So it's amazing how time flies. But I just am so thankful and grateful for you all for your willingness to share your story.
Yeah.
So what can you all share with us about Smokey and Kay?
You go first.
Okay. Like you said, my name's Joseph Lee Taylor Jr., but Smokey's a family nickname that was given to me from a little boy, baby, actually. Born in Brooklyn, New York. That's how Jess and I, Jessica's father and my father were like brothers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And her mother, Sister Glendale, and my mother were like sisters. We all in the same church up there in Brooklyn. Moved out here to South Carolina and grew up here. And then fast forward a little bit. 2005, I graduated from high school, went to Miles College, HBCU in Birmingham, Alabama. Dirty MC, we got.
That's right.
Graduated from there. But also before I graduated, the Lord saved me. Was repentant of my sins, was baptized in Jesus' name, filled with the precious gift of the Holy Ghost. And in that moment, not much longer after that, I accepted my call into the ministry.
Wow.
And just begin to serve. And what's interesting in the vein of what we're here for tonight, I knew early on after I got saved that I was gonna need to be married.
Hey.
I'm gonna need me a good one. As we say down here in the South, a good wife.
That's right.
I'm gonna need me a good one. And so I was 22 when I got saved. I was 22 when I got saved. And then after that, I stayed in the ministry. 2014, ended up in Montgomery, Alabama, with the law school down there, graduated in 2017. And now I'm back here in South Carolina, working as an outreach and admissions counselor and career transition specialist for Job Corps, doing recruiting and admissions for them.
Okay.
And I'm here, and I'm in ministry here as well.
Okay.
Still in the ministry, so I am the assistant pastor at the church, Lively Stone Temple Apostolic Ministries here in Islandton, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Bamberg, South Carolina, and Ridgeland, South Carolina.
Yeah.
One church and 4 locations.
Yeah.
And so I'm here with my beautiful wife, Kay.
Yes, Kay.
As they say. And so we're here in Bamberg, South Carolina, and I guess my life has been characterized as one culture shock after the other.
Yeah, that's good.
With, Brooklyn, New York, to like the dirt road in Walterboro.
They're very two different places.
Went back to the city, then back to the country again. So here we are. So that's I think that's a good little starter for
that was. Kay, you get to follow that up. No.
Yeah. Now mine might be a little different, but my name is Kalia Taylor. I go by Kay. And I actually was born in New Haven, Connecticut. And my family and I, we moved to Birmingham, Alabama. And that's home. Birmingham is home for me. Okay. So Birmingham is, I got saved at the age of 14. And I've been walking with the Lord since then. And I'm a blogger, YouTuber, social media influencer. I don't have a podcast yet, but I'm sure I have one in the future.
That's coming.
She married an audio guy.
Yeah,
right.
I got the sound guy. So he knows how to do all the stuff. I edit videos. So I'm really creative. I'm a techie type person. And I love people. And I'm in ministry as well. So my passion is more so like women's ministry and empowerment and healing, emotional healing, deliverance, different things like that. So I also have a t-shirt line called Creative Holiness. And that's my brand that I started. And I do it through Instagram, through Facebook and YouTube. And I connect all of them. And a lot of the posts that I share on Instagram are inspired by the t-shirts, and the t-shirts are inspired by my life. So I do a lot of blogging. That's my thing.
Can you give us an example of one of your t-shirts? Like what's something that it would say on your t-shirt or one of your shirts?
So one of my favorites was one I created in 2020. It said no bondage. And that was important to me because at that time I was like in my own little healing journey. Yeah. So that was personal.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Awesome. I'm going to make sure people can connect to your brand and your social media and all the stuff that you're doing, especially for women. So that's amazing.
And she sells clothes for the fellows too on it.
Oh yeah, I do.
Hey,
all right. And children, older people, everybody.
So the whole family.
A hoodie off of there. And I love my hoodie.
Joseph, do you model any of her clothes on her?
Yeah, at work every day I wear my hoodie all the time.
Oh yeah.
I love my hoodie. It says it will fight like a man of God, and so it's got the praying hands on there.
Yeah.
There you go. Your fighting is done in prayer, right?
Hallelujah, Jesus.
There you go. Awesome. Well, I gotta, I want to hear about that fighting in prayer, because I have a feeling that plays into your story in some way.
Uh-huh.
Y'all, I didn't know that. We haven't talked about it, but I know.
Discernment.
So I want to know what was going on before you all met. And you all have an interesting story. I know little tidbits. So what was going on before you all met the first time?
Okay.
The first time. Before the first time. Okay.
You better tell it right.
If I don't, I know you got me. So I was 21. So I was like maybe 2 years out of school. So I graduated school. I started school late. So I graduated when I was 19. So I was 2 years out of high school. I did a little bit of college and I left and I focused on ministry. So that's what I was doing. I was like trying to grow and trying to figure out who I was as a 20-year-old, because your 20s is rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just trying to find myself, and that's where I was at that time.
Nice. Okay. And Smokey, she was 21, but how old were you?
Oh my gosh, I was 28, 29 at that
29.
time? 29. I was in my second year in law school.
It's a stretch, right?
Yeah, I was in my second year in law school, and I was just trying to make it through law school. And I was doing ministry at that time as well at Rice Temple AOH Church of God in Montgomery, Alabama. And I was the pastor was Bishop Cannon, and I was doing ministry there. And I was working with the youth down there. And I was their Sunday school teacher. I was their Bible study teacher on Wednesdays. I was their small group teacher. And I was their prayer group leader
There
as
you
well.
go. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And they were zealous too. Like I didn't have a group of young people that was just kind of like, coming because their parents made it. Man, they wanted the word. And the Lord blessed, and they were saved and serving the Lord with gladness. And so I was doing that while still trying to do law school full-time as well, and working at the district attorney's office part-time. I was trying to do, I was doing way too much. So,
I was going to say, this sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I was shocked I even had enough time to see her.
Right.
All I had going on. And so that's where I was. I was doing that. And just as a matter of fact, I had the first time I saw her, I had not too long just came out of a relationship. A relationship that just ended. And can we go ahead and go to that part now?
Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a good friend of mine, Pastor Bryant Murphy, wonderful man of God. And they had Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, their organization. They were having their council at Bishop Leo Lewis's church in Montgomery on the old Summer Road, something like that, whatever. Yeah. Summer going to Selma. And Murph, as I call him, said, "Hey, why don't you come on out? You in Montgomery?" I said, "Yeah, Murph, I'll come on." And I came there, and they had the after hours service for the young people.
No, it wasn't after hours.
I stayed there for the first part.
Yeah, I wasn't there. You weren't there. I was there for the first.
Yeah, but you left. Yeah, before the after hours part. So I got there, and then there's this girl there with this plaid skirt on and this little leather coat, and I was like, who that? He's like, man, he hitting with them lines. My homeboys always hit me with scared money don't make no money. And I was like, all right, And I was like, well, how old is she? And he told me how old she was, and I was like, okay, I'm older than her. And I don't care, whatever.
Well, you know what? At that time, let me go back there, because if this was in Montgomery, I wasn't 21 then.
Yeah, you was about 19.
I was like,
you were young.
Yeah, I had to be 19 or 20 then.
Yeah, you were out of high school though. Let's be clear.
And I was legal.
She was out of high school.
I wasn't a minor.
Right.
I was an adult.
and so I was like, man. Before 21. And he told me what her name was, and I was like, okay, but I ain't say nothing. I didn't say nothing to her that night. That night because she walked out and left, and I stayed for the after hour service.
So to get my part. Okay. My church, we took a bus down that night, and I was in the choir stand. I had to sing with the choir, and that's why I had on those particular colors, because that's the colors we had to wear. And I never saw him. I didn't know who he was. I didn't see him. And like as church girls, we sometimes wonder, like, is my husband here? I thought about it, but I didn't know he was actually there for real.
Right.
So that's why I left early, because we took a bus down and we had to get back to Birmingham.
Yeah, she left for this. My husband ain't here. I'm leaving.
Right.
and so and then fast forward.
Yeah.
Murph, he gets sent out to pastor. And
he was a member at my church.
He was a member at her church at that time. Yeah. Faith Apostolic in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And so he gets sent out to pastor, and he has his pastoral installation service.
Mm-hmm.
So my best friend Anthony and I was like, yeah, we got to go up and support. So we went up there.
And he asked me to be a part of the praise team.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So I get there that night, and Anthony and I, we having a blessed time, just enjoying the service. And lo and behold,
you leaving stuff out.
I'm gonna tell the rest.
No,
he had a real blessed time when he saw you.
Lo and behold, look who's there. She there. and I probably burned a hole in the back of her head all night staring at her.
Now wait, because
I made sure she knew I was looking at her.
A mutual friend told me about him. So I had started hearing about him by this time. This is a year later.
Yeah,
I was gonna wonder the
you leave
the time.
Famous.
Bye. This is a year later. A year later. So by this time I had started hearing his name. I think he had sent me a friend request on Facebook by that time. So I was familiar with him by this time.
Okay.
And then
I think I might have inboxed you already, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet. But what school did you go to Miles College?
That wasn't
Okay. Sorry.
That wasn't there. See? So by this time it's a year later, and a friend told me that he liked me. And at that time I wasn't interested, because he was a little rough on social media.
I was a jerk, man.
Yes,
just say
he was a jerk. He was rude to people. He had a smart mouth. He was always correcting somebody. And I was just like, oh, he is the worst.
Ooh, watch yourselves on social media, everyone. You never know.
Man, listen.
I was totally, I never thought I always thought he was attractive, but his attitude and how he came off on social media was like a huge turnoff for me. So when my friend told me about him, I was just like, And
I want to be very clear. I wasn't putting on social media.
That was who
I was a jerk in person.
No, you really were.
That's just who you were.
Yeah, I wasn't like a keyboard gangster or nothing like that.
Real character.
That's who I was. So we're at the church that night, and she there, I was like, man. And I was like, man, she's beautiful. And so Anthony looking at me, he was like, hey man, bust a move. She have money, don't make no money.
Right.
So I was like, okay, and so I know she saw me looking at her.
He stared at me the whole.
I made sure she knew. I was like, everywhere she went. If she went to the bathroom,
our friend told me that day that he's gonna be here and he likes you, and I was just like, okay, anyway, because I was interested in somebody else at that time too. So
right.
So I noticed him watching me, and I was like, and a part of me in my mind, I'm kind of like, well, I kind of want him to say something, because if you hear her say something,
right?
He didn't say anything yet.
But I'm a jerk.
Yet. You know how girls are.
I do. All too well.
It was this jerk would come speak to me.
If he could look at me, say something.
So why didn't you say anything that night?
So I did.
Okay.
I have to get I got tunnel vision when it's time to do ministry, right? So after service that night, we had deliverance happen after church that night. Yeah. So we stayed and worked with a soul. And we stayed and worked with him and prayed with him, and it was wonderful. I left that night. As soon as I got in my truck, I didn't pull out the parking lot before I inboxed her.
Okay.
Right.
No waste no time.
Oh no. I quit school because of recess. I don't play. And so I inboxed her. And I was like, hey, how you doing? Praise the Lord. I'm pretty sure that's what I said, PTL or something like that. And
I got the screenshot. So you better tell the story right.
So I remember that night I was like, hey, I would love to take you out, on a date, or take you out to eat or something like to that effect.
Yeah.
To that effect.
And I was like, first I have to know how old you are.
She was like, how old are you? I said, 29. She said, well, I'm just 21. And
at the time I had a five-year
age limit. So she was like, get your old dusty tail out my
I didn't tell him that.
Go somewhere.
I did not tell him.
That's how how he interpreted
Right,
it.
That's how-
So
right.
She was like, yeah, go be blessed, granddad, you know. And so I was like, and so man, I was kind of salty. I was like, okay, all right,
Forget
cool, I
you did.
understand. I was like, okay, I understand, I respect that. But in my head, like, oh, I was like, yeah, forget you did, you know, whatever.
I don't need you.
Yeah, I don't need you. I
Right.
am 29. I'll
Right.
get somebody else. I'll find me a 30-year-old. Be done
That's
with y'all
right.
little, yeah, so done with y'all little young girl.
That's funny.
And so I was like, okay, well, you know, whatever. And so like some years, like
Wait, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
okay.
Wait.
So
There's more.
that's how that interaction went
Yeah.
that night. Okay.
Yeah.
And where do we go? Where do we go next?
You want us to keep going?
You want us to keep going?
going. You're doing great.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So he always, so the years went by and he always seemed to be around. Like I always saw him, he would watch all my videos and he would like my comments. I mean, like my posts, he would comment on different things. He just always was around. And because I didn't like him, like his attitude, I just used to be disgusted, but I couldn't bring myself to unfriend him.
So Smokey, were you in those years kind of holding out? Like you still had a crush on her and playing the like, I'm, you know, was it for real, like forget you, or was it more like forget you, but like not forget you?
The forget you part was like, you know, like kind of like the nerve of her, you know.
Right.
That was really like, but you know, like after I was like, man, forget her. And I went to bed that night. I was like, well, you know, if I see you again, I'll probably talk to her. You know? I didn't really forget her. You know?
I'm just playing.
You know, those is Jesus, those is jokes. I'm on my knees praying to the Lord. Like, those is jokes, Jesus. Keep me on the mind. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, so I was like, I just stayed in, but also like the apostolic Pentecostal circles, it's small. Like there's a lot of people in it, but it's real small.
Everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody. So, you know, like it's not odd for like
us to run into each other.
A church service to be going on, a convention or a council, and half her church there, half my church, and we all go out to eat, dinner, fellowship. Right. So we see each other all the time.
Because after that, like that moment in the installation service, we kept running into each other.
Yeah. Kept running into each other. And so
he swore up and down I was rude to him, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
Now let's go there.
I don't remember that.
No, let's do that. Let's do that because folks get short-term memory loss. You know, folks get amnesia. All right. I'm gonna tell you how I know. Because Bishop Fred Rogers was from Jonesville Baptist Church of the PAW from Savannah, Georgia, came to her church to preach that night. Man, he preached up something. The sermon that night was rise and break forth. I'm telling you, I remember.
Good memory.
I remember. And he preached that night. He talked about the two twins that were in the womb and came out and had his hand on it. He talked about all that. And so the altar call, he got done preaching, the altar was flooded. So I go down there to pray. Like he told all the young people to come to the altar. So I go down there and pray. I'm like, absolutely. And then like she all on down there just crying, toe up, praising the Lord, hallelujah, doing all this stuff. Bucking and crying and falling out and all this stuff. She didn't fall out, but you know, she's just so in love with Jesus. And then after service that night, I saw her. I was like, praise the Lord, Sister Kalia. Hi.
I don't remember doing him like that because that's the thing. I'm a sweet person. And I'm not rude to anybody. I don't know.
Oh, she's sweet. She's sweet. Like a Sour Patch can.
Once you get past the sour.
She's sweet, but that night she was a Sour Patch can.
You are the worst.
I was like, oh my God. You know, I was just trying to be, you know, so all right, cool. I'm telling you. Now, I mean, it hurt, man.
Man, bye. Man, I'm never gonna believe it.
I believe it. Shit, ain't got me lying on y'all church. I know what happened.
That's his side of things, at least. Okay.
So, you know, that night passes on and whatnot. And then later on, I'll never forget, like she was always on my radar, right? You know, I found out that I inboxed her because I found out she was going to Miles College. which was my
because I
alma
bounced
mater.
around to a couple colleges.
Yeah, which is my alma mater. So I was like, well, maybe I got some common ground now.
Yeah, he reached out again.
So I
This was
reached
like
out
maybe
again.
2 years
Yeah,
later.
and I was like, hey, I heard you go to Miles College, yada, yada, yada. And we actually
We
talked.
chatted, and I wasn't
chatted
rude
for a
to
little
you.
bit. She wasn't rude. We actually chatted. We actually chatted for a little bit, and then that was that.
yeah.
Was that.
Mm.
So later on,
Were you going
I
2017?
found out that you were going to college. You put a
You gotta go before then, because remember the convention 2017
Was that 2017?
in Birmingham.
You went. The convention was before you went to college.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So she goes, Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ is having a convention in Birmingham. I'm living in Montgomery at that time, and some friends of mine, we all drove up. We wanted to be in the convention. So it's at the Sheraton Hotel, and the Sheraton has this long, gigantic, huge Escalade that just goes up. And like, I'm going there that night. I'm already there.
And I had to sing and be involved because I had a lot of connections there.
I left to go out to my car to get something, to the car to go downstairs to get something, right? While I'm going downstairs, who floating up the escalator with her boyfriend? All proud and happy.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. Just sitting there, and all I see is this, and she just so doggone happy looking, going on up the escalator. And I said to myself, I called one of the groomsmen in our wedding. I called them. I said, man, this fool done took my woman. I was crushed, man. I was so hurt.
God.
I was so crushed. Lord have mercy. And so, I was like, man, yeah, that's it. And Mel was like, maybe I'll stand a chance. Then she put a video on Facebook later on about how she got accepted into Liberty University
in Virginia,
Mm.
and she's moving. I was like, well, there that goes. You know,
Right.
There that goes.
And that was different. That was real different because during that time after I moved, I was away at school. I looked on Facebook and saw that he moved. And this is how he ended up back here.
Yeah, I moved back to South Carolina.
Okay.
And then tell all of it.
Which part, man?
And she was all on.
Oh, okay.
You get all over me.
I was talking to a friend one night, and I was on Facebook as I was talking to this friend, and I remember saying, like, he's different. He seems different. And for the first time, I'm like, maybe he's not a jerk anymore. Like, and I saw that he had moved, and I was like, that's gonna be good for him. I remember telling my friend that I was like, that's gonna be good for him. And I was like, he looks happy. That's gonna be good for him. And I was talking good about him. Like I meant that.
Those her move and my move were both necessary,
absolutely,
for our growth and for our lives. Like,
wow.
It was like the time after I graduated from law school in 2017, to the time where I inboxed her in June of last year. Like that time period, those moves were so necessary for me because like I said, I was a jerk and I was a bully, but that was the only style of ministry I had ever seen modeled to me. And so my understanding was I was rough, the people of God, they just soft. They can't take nothing.
Yeah, he was terrible. Like I used to think to myself, like, he the only one going to heaven. You're going to heaven by yourself. Oh.
And so, and I remember I remember her telling me, she was like, we looked at your post. We all knew you knew the word of God. You were just a jerk. It was like presentation.
I never took that away from him. Like I always knew he knew the word.
Presentation, it means a whole lot.
Sure.
And so, but finally I was put in a position where I was given the same treatment that I was issuing out. And then I realized that the people of God ain't soft. They just don't have to take this mess.
Right.
And so it was at that moment that I fell in love with the saints, with the people of God. Like I always had sympathy for them, but I never knew empathy for them. And so it was at that particular time that the Lord gave me a new affinity and a love for the people of God. And I realized now he was preparing me for marriage, because he's not going to give me his best daughter if I don't prove to him that I love his people.
Wait. That's good right there. you knew, so when you say you knew God was preparing you for marriage, you just had sort of this sense like I'm in a different place right now. I'm in a different season right now because God's doing something. Like, explain kind of what was going on.
Absolutely. So I knew God, at that particular point, I knew God was doing something new in my life. I know now what it was that he was doing.
Yeah.
There you go.
I didn't necessarily know then.
Sure.
I just knew that it was necessary for me to go through it. It was because I had to have a paradigm shift in my way of thinking. The way I view like church and the way I view church discipline and the way I view church order and structure and whatnot. And I had to disassociate, and God had to all but rip me out of certain traditional mores that I had adopted that was going to be a detriment not only to my ministry, but if I ever became a husband, it'd be a detriment to my home. Wow. And so he had to humble me before he could help me. And so I had to learn that. And so he put me through a very humbling, I'm talking about like.
He was working on me too when I was in Virginia.
Yeah, I'm talking about like, if you said transparency is good, so here's some transparency for you. After I graduated from law school, I could not buy a job interview. I couldn't buy one. But I got busy working for the church. Whatever the church needed, I was there. Driving, they needed the van driven. They needed somebody to come baptize somebody, prayer, Bible study, whatever it was. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Right.
I never went without because I was dedicated to the service of the Lord. But the Lord needed me to have that time period to work with those young folk and to work with that church, to work with that
character development.
From character development. And then the Lord like sent word for me, basically like, your season here is up. Whatever you needed to learn is up. And I did not want to, I had my mind made up to die and be buried in Alabama. I love Alabama. And I wasn't going nowhere. I wasn't coming back home.
I didn't want to leave either though. I didn't want to leave either because I left because it was a lot of like chaos going on around me. And I was the only person saved in my family. So it was a lot of warfare. It was just tough. And I was kind of leaving to escape. I just wanted to get away. Same
Right.
But even with me, God sending me away, I knew I wasn't going to stay when he sent me away, but I knew that it was going to be something I needed. And I knew that when he allowed me to get the acceptance letter, this is where I need to be. He's sending me here. This is what he wants from me at this time period. And when I went there, just as God was working on him, I didn't necessarily need to be humbled right away. Eventually I did, but not right away. He was working on me with self-esteem and learning self-worth and learning how to love myself and learning how to be alone and learning how not to talk so much and not to use more discretion and different things like that, because I used to overshare. So like I had to learn a lot of different like things that as women of God, we need. So he was working on my character development as well when I was in Virginia. So he was developing me and he was stripping things off of me and learning me. Because I one of my biggest issues at that time was I felt like I always had to be around people. But I'm more introverted. But I always felt like I had to be around people. And my mom used to always tell me, you got to pull away sometimes because you're different and God has you set apart. And I just couldn't see that. And I always wanted to be up under people. So God was just like, okay, you don't want to pull away. I'll move you away. How about that?
He'll snatch you out. He'll snatch you out.
And he was working on me too, because I wanted to be married, but I wasn't ready. And the thing was, it's like, I found myself always entertaining just different kind of relationships I wasn't supposed to be in, or talking to guys I wasn't supposed to be talking to. And I remember in 2017, that the same person I was with when he came to the convention, me and this guy, we broke up, and the Lord told me, he said, you won't be single forever, but right now I need you single. So this is right before I went to go to school, because the breakup actually really prompted me to go to college, because I was just like, well, I can go now. I'm out of here.
Right. Unattached.
Which is a great segue back into like my time, my season as well.
Right.
Because like I said, the Lord sent word for me. It's time for you to leave here. I said, I had my mind made up to stay. And he made it so uncomfortable for me to stay, to be there, that I had no choice. But I literally left kicking and screaming. I ended up doing stuff I was told everybody when I was 18. When I leave Walterboro, I'll never come back to this godforsaken place. I hate this. I hate it here. I was just like, and then I was until I was 33 years old, living in my mom's spare bedroom. back on that same road because the Lord let me know. Like, I remember one time being so upset and like, why Lord, why is this happening? Why is this happening? He let me know, like, you haven't been around long enough to tell me what kind of God I should or should not be. You suck it up and then you go through what I told you, what I'm putting you through. And so I had to demand that. I mean, that's some humble pie for you.
But he did me the same way.
Yeah. And so I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then I came home, and it wasn't much longer after I moved back home that I got into another relationship.
Mm.
And this was probably like the final frontier, I would say.
And mine was too, the one before him. Yeah.
This relationship, like, my thing with relationships is always, whenever they ended, they always ended the same way for the same reasons, allegedly. I'd always hear, one, I'm not ready. You're more ready to be married than I am, or at least more willing.
Right.
And number two, I feel like I just need to get closer to God in this season.
Like, so, it's kind of like they were saying he was distracting them.
Right. So my thing is this, like, if you tell me that you want to get closer to God, right, well, then I can't get mad at you if that's true.
Right.
And I can't get mad at God because that just wouldn't make sense. So the only person left for me to be upset with is me. And when they all begin to end the same way for the same reason, you begin to think that something is wrong with you. And so that was my big issue. And so with this last breakup, I want to know, like, what's wrong with me? Like, I went into a full-blown, like, depression, like, for not long. I prayed myself about that. I wasn't gonna let it stick. But for about a day or two, I figured out that this must be what it feels like to be depressed. And I remember, and the Lord was using that relationship to teach me how to be patient and graceful and humble. Because I remember praying and asking the Lord, I was like, how in the world can someone that I give my finances to and pray for and so patient with and love them and I always respect them and whatever they need, I'm helping them do this, take care. If they need help with the bills, I'm taking care of this. And I was doing something I had never done before, dating a young lady with children. Never done that before, but I want to try something new, yada, yada. And I'm doing everything within my power to like, Lord, how can I just constantly like do for someone and then in the end just get spurned? And he basically said to me, I don't know. Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me about that. He basically let me know it sucks, doesn't it?
Right.
He said, I've been doing this forever. And so I learned through that. I learned a lot of patience through that. I learned how to be patient with the people, with God's people.
Right.
And it was after that. And then, I'm sorry, man. I know I'm talking a whole lot. Two things I want to say. And then during that breakup, my baby sister, Piff, gave me some of the best advice I ever had. I was talking to her like, I don't know how I'm going to get over it. She said, listen. She said, you are not struggling with the fact that she broke up with you. You are struggling with the fact that someone failed to meet your expectations again. And she said, if you can detach your expectations from them, then you will be just fine. That's what she told me.
Wow.
That's what she told me. And then she also told me this as well. It's the second thing she told me. She said, make your expectations clear from Jump Street. Let them know what it is that you need. Find out what you need. Let them know what it is you need. And if they prove to you early on that they aren't willing to do that, find you something else to do.
Right.
And I did.
Here we are today. Wow. So that's powerful though, Smokey. And Kay, we're gonna get to what was going on with you, but just really talking about how what that's speaking to me is just how those seasons of hardship, pruning, even silence, so to speak, where it feels like, God, what you doing? That he is working in those seasons, and they are very purposeful as much as they can feel like, what is the point? What you doing? Like he's moving. That's powerful. Kay, so you break up with this guy, or you guys break up, and God's pruning you at the same time.
Yeah.
So what's going on with you during this season?
Okay, so my season, it was a lot different. I actually left school because I fell into a deep depression second semester. And I started dealing with anxiety, and I was missing classes, and it was a lot. And it wasn't the work. It's just, I felt like Satan was just trying to take me out.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the tools that I needed to fight. And I got out of there. So I left, and I went to stay with my grandparents because I couldn't face the shame of coming back home to Birmingham because they threw me this great big old going away party, and everybody was so excited. And it was like, oh my God, this is the best Christian school in the nation, and all this stuff like that. And I felt like I had a lot to prove at that time. So I couldn't face coming back home. So I stayed with my grandparents. And even then, I didn't want to be there because at that time I was still in love with this other guy. And he and I were still in communication because even after God broke us up, I was being disobedient. And so was he. And we were just trying to still make it work. And I wanted to be in Birmingham because that's where he was. I didn't want to be in North Carolina. I wanted to be, I'm leaving school, so I want to go back where he is. And the Lord was just like, no, you're going to be where I need you. And at that time, he needed me in North Carolina with my grandparents. And he used my grandfather when I first got there to tell me, he said, God is about to deal with you, and he's about to show you who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he said, you're going to be okay. It's going to hurt, but you're going to be fine. And he was telling me, he said, right now, his terminology, he said, right now you're soup. And what he means by that is God had me in a refining process, like a potter, and I was on the wheel, but I wasn't even solid yet. Like I was soup. That's what he meant by that. So, and I knew what he meant, and I didn't take offense to it because I'm like, when I got there, I was in shambles.
Yeah.
I felt like the worst. So he was like, I'm going to help you. God's going to help you. You're going to be fine. You're going to be great. Everything's going to work out. And at that time, I could not see it. And that was like about almost 3 years ago. I couldn't see it at that time. And all I knew was I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go back home with my friends and my family. Because at that time, I was 23. I was 23 by that time. So I was young and I wanted to be back home. I wanted to hang out with my friends. Yeah. But it was very needed. Like that time was so needed because during that time, God started working on me as well. And he started using my grandfather to help me work through some trauma and baggage that I had from my childhood. Because I was raised by a single parent mother, and I grew up with abandonment issues and rejection and all these different things, low self-esteem, insecurity, this a laundry list of things. And I didn't have the tools and I didn't know how to overcome those things on my own. And I guess I was kind of ignoring myself for a while. Like I didn't, sometimes you keep busy to try to avoid things. Yeah. My life was always going. I didn't have the time to see and reflect and see like what I really had going on. But I was at my grandparents' house. They're elderly people. I'm not able to leave like that. They have their car. My grandfather's like, you're not going to crash my car.
Right.
So, and I wasn't working, and they didn't want me to work because they just wanted me to enjoy that time there too. So I was stuck with me to see me finally. And it hurt. And seeing so many things about myself come out at one time made me feel like I was having like a nervous breakdown. Like it was a lot. Wow. And I remember suffering with depression, even at my grandparents' house. And they're two saved, praying people. They knew they were praying for me, but they handled me with care. Yeah. Because with people like that, you can't just talk to them any kind of way. You can't push them because you'll push them over the edge. So my grandfather, me and him, so we started counseling sessions together. And he started intervening. God used him to be a counselor for me, like a therapist, because he has a degree in pastoral counseling. And he started counseling me in his office at their house. And he would be writing on the board and we'll talk through things. And he started me on a path of journaling. So I've always loved writing. So he was like, I'm gonna get you some journals. I want you to write out things, whatever memories come to you, write it out, get it on paper and, get it off of you. And that's how I started God started using those means of writing and communication to help uproot what I was dealing with. Right. But all of it didn't happen at once. Like that was the beginning of it. It actually continued on when I moved. So that was 2019. And I realized, I knew that when I was there, I wasn't going to be there for a long time. Right. So towards the end of the year, the Lord started letting me know, okay, you're going to go back to Birmingham now. because I went on a fast and I was confused about what was next. So I went on a fast and I asked the Lord, I'm like, okay, where do I go? What's supposed to happen now? And he said, you're going to go back to Birmingham. And he gave me some instructions and different things like that. So I talked to my grandparents and we set up a way for me to leave. And I went back to Birmingham. And I just thought I was going to go back and everything was going to be back to normal. And I was going to get back with my guy and I was going to be with my friends and that was going to be my life. And me and the guy actually did end up getting back together. But it was by this time, it started getting real shaky. It was real shaky. It wasn't comfortable. We were toxic to each other. Like we weren't cursing each other out and abusing each other, but it was just two like people who weren't compatible. Right. And it just was not working. And we were missing each other and communication needs, we were forcing it. That's what we were doing. We were forcing it. And so I went back to Birmingham and it wasn't 3 weeks that I was in town that me and him had started having issues and we broke up. Like as soon as I got there within like the first 3 weeks of me being back in Birmingham. And that breakup was tough on me because me and him had been doing this back and forth thing for like 3 years.
Wow.
Like on and off type thing.
Yeah. And
by that time I had developed like this connection with him. And when the Lord broke us up the first time, he was trying to get us out before feelings got attached. But being rebellious and wanting to do your own thing and not trusting God, we allowed this thing to go longer than it was supposed to go. And then by this time, our hearts were invested at this time.
Right.
So here we are in 2019, we break up and this breakup was really rough on me. And it was rough because, you know, through him and I talking, we started seeing like, I would bring things to his attention about his character. He would bring things to me about my character. And when the relationship ended, I blamed myself for everything. Because, and that goes back to insecurity and low self-esteem. I didn't like try to see, well, maybe some of this is him too. No, I blame myself for everything. So I instantly started thinking, okay, how can I fix me now?
Yeah.
Because it's clear that I'm the problem.
Yep.
So during that time, I came back home and I didn't want to go back to stay with my mother because my mom downsized and I'm the oldest of 4 girls. So they didn't have enough space for me and nobody wants to go back home when you move out. So I was not trying to move back in. Not at all. I was not trying to go back. So my godbrother, my god sister, they told me we made arrangements for me to live with them when I came back. So I came back and I started staying with them. And during that time, after my boyfriend and I, at that time, after we broke up, I was like, okay, I really have to work on me. Like, God, I really need you to help me. So I kind of blocked out everything. And I set on like a path of, I needed to really heal. I need to get over whatever all these issues that's causing me to be toxic, causing me to have like certain things or whatever. So I remember I started writing once again. I started writing and that's when I wrote out it was a sermon that I did. And I didn't know it was a sermon at that time. I did it for myself. It was supposed to be a Bible study on David and about your heart, like your heart, your character. And I ended up having to speak that somewhere. And I was fresh out of a breakup when I spoke that. And it was so hard. But the Lord, he helped me during that moment. And it was called, What's the State of Your Heart? And I was talking to me and people didn't know. I was ministering that to other people, but I was talking about myself. Yeah. And I knew I was in a dark place, but it got interesting after that because fast forward, I had a tendency of thinking that like once things got better, oh, I'm good now. Everything's fine.
Right.
So like come February of 2020, this is like maybe 2 months after that, I'm like on social media and I'm healed and God is great. Everything's fine. And, you know, I was fooling myself because I was still very broken and I didn't know it until the Lord, he had a way of doing things because when February came, it was my 25th birthday by that time. And I had this large group of friends and I found myself coming back home. And remember when I told you earlier how I always felt like I had to be around people. Yeah. I came back home and started doing the same thing that I did right before I left. And I clogged my life with people and hanging out and doing all this stuff like that, going to the movies with my friends and stuff. And my mother told me, she said, you're trying to hold on to your teen years. And she was like, you really have to let this go. She was like, of course you still have your friends. Of course you still hang out, but you ripping and running like you used to do before, you can't do that anymore. Right. You're reaching like this is a milestone birthday for you. Your life is changing, you're developing. And you can't hold on to these childish ways. That's basically what she told me.
Wow.
And it was like a wake up call, and it hurt, but it was true, because I was still trying to hold on to who I was before I left. So that kind of slowed me down, and it made me start to self-assess and like look at my surroundings and different things like that once again. And I found myself, these guys started coming, all these different guys, and these are the counterfeits, of course.
Mm-hmm. The distractions.
Oh my gosh. So once I pulled away, like they started coming out of nowhere, it's guys everywhere. And I had this large group of friends that I was hanging out with, and we were like talking to each other every single day, not giving each other any space. And my mother, like I've always been a loner, and that's been good for me. Like I have my friends, but I've been a loner because it helps me to stay consecrated. And my mother was just like, I haven't seen you open your Bible. I haven't seen you pray. Oh, because I didn't tell you I had to go back to my mother's house. I didn't tell that part.
Okay. So you ended up
I missed that part.
living with,
back.
Okay.
I ended up having to leave my friend's house, my godbrother and my godsister's house, because it was around the holiday season. So I went back to stay with my mom and my sisters, and COVID hit. When COVID hit, that slowed me all the way down.
Right. All of us, right?
All the way down. So by this time, I moved back to my mom's house. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. I'm not in anybody's school. I left school without my degree. And I'm back home at 25 years old, living with my mother and my sisters in a limited space. And I was miserable because I'm like, what's happening to me? Like, what is my life? Like, what is my life really going to be? And because the space was so limited, I found myself in my mother's walk-in closet often, because it's just like, that's the only place I could find some personal time.
Yeah.
And that became the space where God started to heal me and deliver me. And in that personal space, I would write and I would pray and I would worship. And God really started to show me my character in a way where I couldn't run from me anymore. And I'm fast forwarding, but he sent one of the saints from my church to mentor me. And she helped me with the last bit of the things I needed to be healed from. But God used her. And that was my time of refining. And it was rough. He stripped me of all my friends, everything.
Wow. So that, man, it's so good to talk to you on the other side of those things, because God truly does bring us all through those seasons multiple times, probably. Yeah. But I know exactly what you're talking about, those seasons of refinement, of loneliness, and you can have friends and be lonely, and some of that is intentional, I think, because God's really trying to get a hold of your attention. Like, I want, your heart. I want your mind. I need to change some things.
Yeah.
But it's encouraging to hear kind of the, you all are on the other side of that. So you can, when you're in it though.
We had to crawl through some mud to get here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah,
right. Like this wasn't an easy journey.
No, not at all.
Right.
And I have found out that you just can't sweat the technique. Like, let God do whatever he wants to do. Like, just let God, because we have the reassurance that we know that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and all the called according to his purpose. And
you can't throw a tantrum out of the process. Like, you can't. God is not going to be moved by your crying and your tears, you continue to do the same thing. You're just going to stay in it longer.
I say this all the time. Like, people always talk about that scripture in Corinthians that says that there's no temptation that's given unto man such as is common to man, but God is faithful with the temptation that he may provide you a way of escape.
Right.
People start dancing and shouting, "Oh, I got a way of escape." And I'm like, wait a minute, read the rest of the verse. The verse says that you may be able to bear it. There are some things that we are just going to have to bear. Like, you can't pray your way out of it. You can't fast your way out of it. You can get in every prayer line. You can have your bishop lay out in sackcloth and ashes, and you can set whatever you want. You can call the whole solemn assembly on the fast, but God said you are going to go through this.
Yeah.
And then, but he'll give you the strength to bear it. Like, there are some things that, like, Lord, don't take me out of it, but just give me the grace to bear it. Like, give me the strength to make it through, because I would not, without those seasons, I'm not married.
Same.
Like and like God wasn't gonna let me get married just so I could ruin a good woman.
Same.
Right.
Tear up, break somebody's heart and whatnot because I gotta beat my chest all the time and be a macho man. I got to be a macho man.
Right.
All this stuff. And the Lord had to get all that up out of me. And one thing I learned is that old habits die hard.
And I had my little issues too. He wasn't gonna let me ruin one of his sons either because my mouth was smart. I used to push people away, had trust issues. He wasn't gonna allow me to do that to him.
The Lord, my last relationship, the Lord sent word to me through one of the sisters at my church. She heard me preach one Friday night and on a revival. And then that following week, she came to me at Bible class and she said, I've been like crying and laboring in my spirit over this for weeks now. And she said, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. She said, please don't think I'm trying to do that. But she said, be careful who you marry because the wrong spouse will destroy your ministry.
Wow.
She told me that. And I realize now, I won't say I won't say they were a bad person. I'm not going to say that, but they were not compatible or conducive for where God was taking me.
Same.
They were not. They could very well go and marry someone else and just have the greatest life ever.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we couldn't be together.
Same.
Yes.
We would not have made it. And the way I view marriage, I would have stayed there and been miserable because I don't believe in divorce. So I just sat there like, oh God, fix it, Jesus. And then she'd be walking out the house. I'll forget you, Joe.
It's because I'm gonna say this and then I want to hear how you inboxed her again. But what I love about what you're sharing though too is if God is so intentional I've said this before, I think on a live from last season, but if God is so intentional to be like, no, not that one. Not that one. No, stop in your tracks. Then can't we trust him to be very intentional about that one.
Yeah,
That's what
no, you better.
because what you're seeing is God's overseeing your life.
Literally.
And so even because I've had that before where God's been like, no, boo.
You better listen.
And at the time you're like, come on. Right? Like, this is a
225 chisel.
Right? Like, what I see, what I hear is good. And they can be really good people, what you're saying, right? It's not, we're bad. We're gone from the days of Disney of just good and evil, right? Like, that person's terrible. No. Sometimes they're good people. Right. That doesn't mean they are right for you.
That's right.
And so if he is, I just, as you're talking, it reminds me of that all over again. If God is so intentional to say, no, not that one. Why would he say that? Because he's saving you for, he's very intentionally saving you for.
Yeah. Don't get in a hurry. Don't get in a hurry. I said this before. Like the issue with that is Philippians 2:9, right? Says that every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. A lot of people, a lot of Christians have no problem with Jesus Christ being Savior. They got a big problem with him being Lord.
Lord over your life.
He's Lord over your life. And Proverbs tell us to acknowledge him in all of our ways, and he will direct our paths. If God says no. Yeah. Like if he's Lord, he has the lordship over your life. He should have the final say so in every area of your life. And if marriage is like, look at the vows, right? Sickness and health, rich or for poor, until death do us part. If you're going in with the intentions of seeing that the vows are set up towards permanence,
right?
If that's the route you're going, then you better let the Lord be involved.
Right.
You better seek him.
Absolutely.
Because we both made up our mind before we got started. That's not even on the table.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's not even. We didn't give each other that escape hatch. Figure it out.
We in here.
Figure it out. Like we had a couple of days. I love you too. But we work it out.
Yeah.
Right. So speaking of that, then how did you're both in these intense pruning seasons. Smokey, how did you get to the point of, all right, I gotta try one more time?
My favorite part.
Okay. So it's crazy
come over.
Right. Let me
Like,
get
you
it
gotta
in.
get closer for this.
I don't think you heard me. So it's crazy because you never know who God's going to use.
Yeah.
You never know who God's going to use. Oh, Jesus, excuse me. Give me a minute.
Say that.
Yeah. I felt
That's
that.
good.
You never know who God is going to use as a signal to let you know. It was like our mutual friend of ours, a sister of ours, Erica Littleton. It was like she was standing at the fork in the road. Yeah. She's at one side and she's just standing there waving at both of us like, hey, I got something to tell y'all. And so like Erica's been a big sister of mine for more than 10 years now.
And I didn't know her that long. Yeah, but me and her, we clicked instantly.
I've known her for a long time. A great sister of mine. And we dropping all these names.
She'll love this.
We love you, Erica. We love you, Erica Jewel. And so what happens is like one day, like Erica like calls me. Her name's Erica Jewel. I always call her Erica Jewel. Phone ring. She said, and she calls me by middle name Joseph Lee. So she calls me Lily. She Lily. I said, what's up, Erica Jewel? She said, you still trying to be married? I said, yeah.
How old are you at this time? By this time, you're 34,
34,
right? Yeah.
34 at this time. This was last year.
And I'm 26.
So she's like, what about Kay? I was like, forget Kay. I tried to talk to her silly self. She told me.
For years.
No, wait. Okay, so on my side, she's talking to both of us at the same time.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like, she's at a convention in Indiana.
Wait. Let me get the details. I'm at a conference in Indiana, as he said, and I had just moved out of my mother's house because my life started shifting.
Yeah, she got her own place.
I had my own place. I'm finally living by myself for the first time. And I'm in Indiana with her, and we're staying in a hotel together for the conference. And she started talking to me, and it was another sister of ours. And she's like, "Kay, did you ever think about Joseph?" And I was like, "Ew, no."
See how she do me, man?
And she was like, wait a minute, that's how I did you. It was just like, no, why you say it like that? And I was just like, he's a jerk. And she was just like, oh, no. That's how she talked. Not my Lily.
He's so sweet.
He's so sweet.
She's like a little apostolic Mary Poppins. So sweet.
Very animated too.
Very
so
animated.
Like, no, he's so sweet. Kay, she was like, he's so sweet. And for the first time, I was just like, wow, I had never thought to think of him like that. But for the first time, I actually saw him in a different light.
Not quite yet. Let me tell you.
No, I did.
Okay.
Character-wise.
Okay. Well, yeah, she did. But let me tell you some more details. So at that time, like Erica's like texting me, and she was like, well, what if like she gave you like another chance? What if she was willing to talk? Would you be? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. The girl told me she don't want to. She already told me I'm too old, so whatever. And she was like, no, you should. You think she's? Yeah, she's pretty. She's beautiful. Wow, woo, woo, woo. And I don't know if she's sitting right in front of her, texting her too.
Oh, you skip a part.
And so
because we left the conference and we got back to Birmingham by this time, and she and I are in the car together. And she's asking me about him again, and she was like, well, what if he reaches out? What would you do? And I'm like, I don't know. He's too old. And I was still stuck on that. All those years later, still stuck on the age thing. And she was just like, after a while, she got tired of me. She said, Kay, you need to get over it. And she was just like, you're mature. You're going to need someone that's older than you.
Yeah.
And once again, she made me think, because you need those people that's going to help you kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, and I was open to it.
And then she's texting me after that.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, would you be willing to talk to her if she gave you a chance? And I was like, she told me she's not giving me a chance. And she was like, well, what if she would? And I was like, I don't know that. She hadn't told me nothing. And then she was like, I'm saying she might. I said, you know something I don't know? She was like, yes.
Do I just spell it out for you?
This is how the text thread looks. Like, right. Giving me all these exclamation points with these, like, you stupid, like, GIFs and whatnot and all this stuff. And so, oh my gosh. And so, like, I was like, all right, I'll think about it. Like 2 days goes by. And like Erica texts me, Lily, did you talk to my sister? I was like, no. She said, what's wrong with you? And I was like, that girl don't want to talk to me. She told me I'm too old. And so like, she was like, oh my gosh. She tested my gangster so hard. She was like, oh my God. She was like, all this long time I've known you, I've never known you to be scared. She was like, you are so scary right now. You're just being a punk right now. I was like, hey.
You don't like that.
That's my gangster, And so like, I was like, all right. I was like, I'll find a way to talk to her. And so I inboxed her. And I knew she had like her own business. So I was like, hey. Forgive me, Father. I was like, hey, I noticed you got your own business. I'm thinking about starting my own business one day too. Like, what would you recommend someone do?
Was that a straight up lie? That's what I want to know. Was that a straight up lie?
Yes. It was a lie. And I knew it was a lie. But
she went along with it.
I went along with it. I played along. Because I was expecting him to reach out because
you knew she was.
And so we start talking and like we're just like she hates like texting and typing and stuff. So she loves to use the voice function. So after a while she was like, oh, I really don't like all this typing stuff. You mind if I use the voice function? So I was like, sure, like whatever. So we started like talking about some generic stuff and whatnot and things like that. And then she was all like, and I told her how many siblings I have. And I have 5 sisters. I'm the only boy. And then she was all like, so I'm a big brother. She was like, I never forget it. She was like, hold up. So like, are you like, you say you the big brother? Like, are you like the big brother or like a little big big brother? Or like what kind of big brother are you? Like you like the big brother? I was like, what?
You thought that was funny.
I thought it was funny though. I thought it was funny. Right. So I'm laughing at that. So another day goes by, we going back and forth. And she says, you know what? This is a lot to be like going back and forth with. We should like, we laugh and she said, we should finish this over the phone. And I was like, oh, okay. Stop talking.
So the conversation started getting really good. And he started sharing like some deep stuff. And I was like,
she was like, we should talk over the phone.
And I threw it out there. I
was like, oh my God. Like she is literally telling me to ask for her number.
You know what? Like, go ahead, Kay. I just have to say, good for you.
I did it in a discreet way, but he'll catch it.
Yeah, I stopped talking.
And then when he did that, I was just like,
she thought maybe he really wanted to start a business.
I was like, maybe this wasn't what I thought it was. Well, okay. But anyway.
And then I think the next day, maybe a day or two later, I reached out because I know some other guy was like on her radar.
Yes, at the same time. 2 guys reached out to me. Him and another guy.
She was thinking about giving him a shot.
Yeah.
The Holy Ghost, boy, you better go ahead and tell that girl.
It was another guy. And they reached out at the same time.
And so,
oh my gosh.
I got first in line. The last shall be first.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
There you go, Smokey.
And so, like, we started talking. I think the first time we talked for 3 hours.
Next day, 4 hours.
The next day, like 5. And then before we knew it, we had fell asleep on the phone one night.
And we had to stop it because he was about to be ordained as an elder.
Yeah. So I had my ordination coming up.
So he had a lot going on. And I wasn't working yet. So I had time on my hands, but like he was busy. And
that was I don't know, we church kids, we church folk, like, right. And so especially me, like I'm so churchy. Oh my Lord, like I'm so churchy. And so, but I'm a typical like conference going, council going, convention.
We both are.
Like we both are. Yeah. And so like I knew that was always going to be a part of my life, but I always prayed to the Lord, I never want my wife to feel like she has to compete for my attention with the ministry.
That's good.
And so
he was used to girls being offended by him being so busy with church too.
Yeah. I was accustomed to that. And that's a fight neither of us wanted to have.
Yeah.
Like we didn't want to have to like be like, babe, you want to go to Bible study tonight?
Well, I have to stay late today.
Like, I got to stay late. I got to work on the sound before we leave. Or, like, choir practice again. Like those are fights we just did not want to have.
Yeah.
And so like we both made, and so I bless God because during that ordination week, I was busy a lot.
And he explained it to me.
I explained it
and
to
I was
her,
fine with it.
And she was like, cool. And I was like, all right.
Cool. You
right. Right.
And before we knew it, man, we just started getting to know each other more.
Yeah.
And we were not just having like shallow conversations like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite? You like
to go only last so long.
You like peanuts with salt or without salt? I don't care. Hey, what's your credit score? How much student loan debt you got?
Yeah.
You know,
You got to get to the
whatever
heart.
question whatever questions we needed to ask, and eventually those questions led to us having intense healing sessions with each other.
Yeah.
Like there were several nights where we were just talking and we just crying to each other. Like, you know, the Lord will like put one in your life and like they'll ask a question and you never knew that was the stimulus that you needed to like trigger something. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that was still there. Yeah. Like I heard her allude to earlier about like these things that you didn't know were in you. And she was all on YouTube, I'm healed and wasn't, right? Yeah. Because, you know, sometimes I used to do the same thing. I had my bad attitude and I used to testify after I got saved, the Lord healed me of my bad attitude. No, the right person just hadn't got on my nerves in a long time. And then the right person come along and poke that button. Then you realize, oh, that's still there. You know? And so we had several of those moments. We had several of those. She was so patient with me. So patient with me when I had like cry, or she wanted to know like why do you get so closed off when this happens? Like she didn't run. She wanted to investigate. Like we both saw something in each other that was asked questions. Like, asking. We feel like, all right, no matter what happens, no matter what we hit, like we made a determination early on that we were going to plow through it, and we were going to make it.
That's what's up. Because the reality is, we all crave people who are going to stick by us, who are going to see us for who we really truly are. And I think that there's I've said this before last season. I think we all have a deep fear within us, or at some point, at least a deep fear within us of like, are there people that will truly love me?
Yeah.
For me. You see the good, bad, the ugly, you know? And so that's a powerful moment when someone is like, I'm not running. I just want to know. I want to understand. I love that word, investigate. That's such a beautiful word.
We had those moments. It was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I just.
Yeah, we both suffered from that terribly. Like we always thought anytime something happened,
that's it.
This is it.
They're gone.
I was used to that too. Like I didn't share, but he, just like he was used to like girls running, I was used to guys running with me too. Oh, you're just good enough to be a friend. You're just a friend. Oh, you're just my sister. Right. Or, I'm not ready for this. So I was used to that, and I had like an issue. So anytime things would happen with us, or we would have a disagreement, or we didn't see eye to eye on something, I automatically thought, okay, this is it.
Right. Which is like, and also like when you just said just now, which is interesting, like, you know, you're a good friend. I just want to be like, she knows I despise men that do that to women. Like I despise them. Like I never think a young lady should be talking to a guy for a month and a half. And then she got to sit him down and be like, so what are we?
Yeah. And I was just doing that. I had to ask all the guys I was talking to. That makes my skin crawl. I had to do that. Like all the years that I was talking to guys, I always had to ask them, so where are we? Where is this going? And I remember telling the Lord, like, I don't want to have to ask those questions with my husband. I don't want to have to wonder if he really likes me.
She didn't.
And I didn't.
She didn't have to.
He was so upfront. And I love that about him. Like it was so many things that made me know that he was the one. But that I think within the first couple of weeks, he was just like, look, I like you. And he was just like, I'm not talking to anybody else. I really don't want you talking to anybody else. And I was like, oh my God, sure. I ain't talking to nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
God is good to do those things for us. Like he knows what we've gone through and what we need to give us that peace of mind and heart. I'm curious because y'all's story had to have moved pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
Last year.
Oh yeah.
You know, so how long was this process before you got engaged? And how did you all know or settle in your heart like this is it? This is the woman or this is the man?
We inboxed for the first time June 11th of last year.
Became a couple August 13th.
August 13th. We made it official. We told each other we loved each other the first time, July 7th.
Yeah.
July 7th. I was at work. And
it's like, it was so funny because we always wanted to tell each other, but it was just.
We began on the phone. We'd be like, have a good night. And
he said it one time, he didn't think I heard him.
Be blessed. We've been wanting to say it, but we were just like, trauma of the past and whatnot. Sure. Makes you like,
So
we set it July 7th. And I remember like after I spoke with her pastor, spoke with her mother,
because we had our pastors involved too.
Our pastors were involved.
Yeah,
the entire
we needed
time.
that godly counsel because both of us was used to making bad decisions.
And we did. I mean, like I said, my pastor was our pastor now, Bishop Capers. He was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Bishop Bender was phenomenal. Let us use the facilities of the church and whatnot, and he was. The conversations I had with him throughout the process was phenomenal. And so we had that good godly counsel, that leadership there. So after I got the green light from them, I was like, all right.
That was 7 months. 7 months. That's it.
Yeah, I'm buying the ring. And
we were long distance the whole time.
Long distance the entire time.
Wow.
That was tough.
7-hour drive.
Yeah.
So how many, just on a practical note, how many times did you all see each other physically before you proposed?
We did our best to
like
once a month.
No, it was like maybe 6 or 7.
So we did our best to try to see each other once a month. But I was, going, so.
We were both working full time.
Yeah, so July.
I
didn't see you in June, did I?
No.
July I came.
And then.
I didn't come in August.
No.
September I came.
November we were together for Thanksgiving. And then we were together again for Christmas.
Now in January I was proposing.
Yeah. So that was like what, 5 times?
Yeah, 5 times.
We saw each other 5 times.
5 times in person.
But we talked on the phone all day, every day. And we fell asleep together on FaceTime. So we were always engulfed in each other's lives.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole process, we were just committed. Like we wanted this to work. We wanted this to happen. And we were so sure that it would.
Yeah.
So sure that it would.
I mean, it just really speaks to, timing, God's timing. Of, when y'all first met, hey, those embers, at least on Smokey's end, were there, but it wasn't time. Like there was just a process you all had to go through. And so you proposed in January. You all were married by
April 23rd.
I was gonna say end of April. So short engagement. And
we did not want a long engagement.
I'm with you.
We were not going to be engaged for a year.
Already long distance. So
right.
We did not want that at all. I want to marry you. What we doing? You know?
So I have to ask because, you all have been married 6 months.
Almost 6 months.
Almost 6 months. And you went from long distance to...
know where this is going.
This is sort of moving into the redemptive challenges of,
Here we go.
Season 2.
What you got?
We're focusing on redemptive challenges. What's the challenge you all have faced. I don't want to put the challenge in your mouth. So if there's other things you want to tell me later, feel free. But I'm curious what's been maybe both the challenge, but also the blessing behind y'all went from long distance to married.
Kind of like the rose and the thorn.
Yeah, there you go. The rose and the thorn.
Yeah. So what I will say is we always give our little disclaimer. we don't like propose like to put out there that we're just marriage experts, right? We don't do that. But we're just sharing our experience.
Yeah.
Long distance to like 7 hours away, seeing each other 5 times in person.
So seeing each other
every day.
Going to sleep together, waking up together.
And that's a challenge. Challenges will arise.
Yeah.
Because we had to learn each other's like living tendencies.
Yeah.
Like learning how to dwell with each other.
Yeah.
Right. Like for example, this is the example I always use. We weren't married a week. And like I was on my lunch break and I was like, I'm gonna get some lunch and I'm gonna bring it to the house and I'm gonna call my wife, like, baby, what you want from me? I find this little sandwich shop over here. I got you covered. We love subs, right? So I found this little shop. And I was like, I'm gonna get you a foot long. I'm gonna get you the biggest one and what you want. And I got it for her. Got chips, drinks, came to the house, set my food on the table. She comes out. And I do what I typically do when I eat lunch. I pull out my phone and start looking at sports highlights.
Right.
And she politely covered my phone up with her hand and was like, hey, talk to your wife. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess
you got a wife now, huh?
Yeah, I go, yeah, that's right. And so I had to like put the phone aside and I'm like, okay. So I'm like.
He was so awkward after that.
I was like, hey.
What do I say?
You like your sandwich?
I like mine.
I like my sandwich.
For me, I grew up in a house with all women, no men. So going from that to then living with a man was like a culture shock for me because they are different.
Yes, you are different.
They are different. They do things differently. They're just so different. I'm used to like how women are. You know how we are and how things kind of we're a certain way. We're meticulous, but living with a man was definitely complicated. And I'm loving it now because reaching month 6, it's like we're finally learning how.
We're finding our groove.
Yeah,
we're kind of finding our groove. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean like we don't expect any more issues to arise.
Right. No, for sure.
Still have disagreements.
Still have disagreements.
Yeah.
We'll probably have one. Tomorrow. I don't know.
Not tonight. We're going to sleep tonight.
We're going to sleep tonight. But yeah, I mean, so those things it's just, and the level of grace that you give someone when you're in a long distance relationship is different than the level of grace required to dwell with one another.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. Like we were sharing a toothpaste tube.
Yeah.
At first.
And he couldn't stand it.
And that's I was like, you know what?
I need my own.
Like, like there's no need for
I didn't think
I need my own.
We did the toothpaste differently, but it never bothered me.
Yeah, let me just get my own, right? Easy fix, simple fix.
Yeah.
But what may not be the easy fix sometimes is like when there's something that's deeply embedded in my character.
Yeah. That
she was like probably told like, no, like we don't do that. Or something deeply embedded in her character. And I was like, no, we're not supposed. So how do we come together
and find out what we do together?
What we do together, right? Yeah. It's all about like being willing to empty yourself and so much so until the only thing that is left is what you all need to make your marriage work.
Yeah, because we learned early on, like, he cooks and he cooks well. I do most of the cooking, but he cooks too. He cooked breakfast this morning. And I remember telling some older people, yeah, my husband, he cooks and we alternate sometimes, or we'll cook together or he'll cook one night. And they was just like, they act like I cursed at them or something. And we realized like, because it was helpful for us doing it together and we enjoy cooking together. Yeah. So we was just like, we don't have to follow the way that they do. We're going to do it our way.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know why. Well, I know why, but I love washing clothes.
Yeah, he does.
And I love folding them. And like,
he loves doing it.
And I fold my towels a certain way.
And I love the way he folds his towels.
And I fold my shirts a certain way. She was like, man, dang, man, you fold your shirts like the folks do, man. Man, this look like something at the store. And I was like, but I mean, it's just what, like, like stuff like that. But I mean, like, yeah. So I mean, like, we've got our, like, we decided like there are some traditional mores that we're like, yes.
Yeah.
But there are some things that we're just going to toss out and we want to do what works, what makes our marriage work.
Yeah.
And like, we've had intense disagreements.
Oh yeah.
Intense disagreements.
We never holler and scream at each other.
Never holler and scream at
each other. We don't disrespect each other, but we've had tough conversations that last a couple hours.
Yeah. But we've also made up our mind to like, if we got to sit up all night, we're going to take care of it before we go to bed. Like if we got to sit up all night, we're going to take care of it before we go to bed. Like we just.
And I deviated the other day and he was just like, we don't do that.
We don't do that.
You went to sleep and we didn't talk.
We don't do that. And that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like me, like I know I'm an extrovert.
And I'm an introvert. Well, I think I'm an ambi, really.
I'm an ambi. Yeah.
She's an ambi, but she's like
more
40% extro and then like 60% invert, So like, but me, I'm a textbook extrovert.
Yeah.
And like, I grew up in a household where like, if I was upset with you, you knew within 10 seconds.
And I grew up in a household. If I was upset with you, I'm gonna go in my room, you're gonna go in your room, and then maybe we'll talk later on.
Right,
And
right.
we were forced to confront each other. We were always forced to confront.
Right.
Like, even as adults, like if we got upset with each other, my daddy would be like, "That's your sister. Go in there and get that right. What you gonna do? Hate your sister?"
And we only got it
Go in
right
there.
when it was intense enough.
That
Right.
my daddy did not allow those issues to fester
Mm,
in our home. He made us work those things out.
mm.
If we didn't work it out, cut that TV off. Cut them computers off. Give me these PlayStations. Give me all these. Cut all that stuff off. If y'all can't get together, you can't use nothing I bought.
Mm.
Like he put us in an environment where we had to. We were forced to. So then, like, you know,
Now we grow up.
We get married, and I'm like, babe, I need to talk through this.
And I shut down.
And then she's all, you know, she was like. But then the negative part about that's not necessarily the negative part of it, but the problematic side is that doesn't mean my method is always right every time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, because I'm so used to confronting, I confront sometimes when I need to just back off.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. And so like
and I'm learning that I can't shut down
that
all the time.
Yeah, I can't shut down all. There's a moment where you got to be like, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
but I can't just be like, yo, we got to fix this. We got to fix this. Be like, dude, I'm upset with you right now. Like,
Get out my face.
we gonna
Right.
no. You know, like, and then you know, and I'll tease her sometimes because I'll be like, you know, so I'm good. I'm like, hey,
I'm trying to work on that
Like,
now because
I
I'm
know
like, I don't know. It's like a default type thing.
like
Yeah,
it's
I
like
get it.
this. I'm good.
Right.
I'm like, you sure?
You know.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm like, you sure? Because it just like you know, like if you don't like the team, don't wear the jersey. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a struggle. I've been doing it for so long. I didn't realize it, but I'm learning that marriage is a mirror. So he's bringing out the things that I need to work on, and I'm bringing out the things that he needs to work on.
so hey, we say ouch a lot,
Oh yeah.
but man, God, is it worth it? It's worth it. Like I've never had any conversation with this woman, with my wife, the woman I love, that at the end of the conversation, even though I might be upset, I find out that I'm wrong about something, I might not like it, but I never leave the conversation saying, I wish I had never talked to her. I wish I had never.
Yeah,
I always say it was worth it. It was worth it. Because I know we aren't going to feel this way all forever.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know we
Right.
are. I know we are. I mean, like, and it's just a matter of, like, I tease her sometimes, like, you got to know your spouse, right? I know her bae language.
Right.
Right? Like if she call me, ooh, babe, she that's the excited. She got some good news. She got something she want to share. Or like if I did something good, it's babe. Like, you know, it touched her heart. Right? Or if I did something out of order, she, babe, God dang it, what I did. You know, like I did something. Or like, you know, she was like, babe, she got some tea. I mean, mama, I'll call you back.
And he calls me, his nickname for me is Keela.
Yeah.
So if he calls me that majority of the time, or bae, but if he feels some type of way, he calls me by my first name, and I don't like that. So I know if he calls me Kalia, something's up.
Yeah, like, Kalia.
Right.
You don't call me that.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk, you know.
Oh man,
So,
that's
yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like taking the time to get to know one another.
Yeah.
Being very, very patient with one and having the right resources around you. Like have the right people that you trust, that you don't keep. When we were engaged on our wedding website, on the knot.com, people could like
give us comments.
Like,
and we had over 100
advice.
comments.
He had over 100 comments on there. And the one that showed up the most of the time was keep folk out your marriage.
So that's what we do.
And that's what we do. If we don't want you in our business, you ain't coming.
Yeah.
yeah.
You ain't coming.
Yeah. Yes.
And especially with family, right? Because like if I'm upset with her and she's just, let's just say, for example, she did something horrible or I did something horrible, right? She gonna go to her mom, and she doesn't do this, but just for example, if she goes to her mom and talks about it, then I go to my mom and talk about it. And then her mom mad at me, my mom mad at her, but we're gonna go home and make up.
Right.
And so now they all they gonna think about is the horrible things that we did to each other.
My son off.
Took my son off, He'll kick my daughter off, and son and daughter at home eating chicken, watching movies, just
He's all having a great time.
yeah. So now we could have just kept them out of our business, So yeah.
That's good. Those were excellent responses, because I just was thinking about how, you all are not 20. And
Right.
so you've had a little bit of time to kind of get set in your ways. And I'm speaking of that as someone who knows, right?
Yeah.
You kind of get set in your ways, and you go from long distance where you're not practicing physically being in front of one another, actively communicating, but not doing daily life in the same way, to now you're seeing one another every single day. Like you said, sharing a bed, sharing all your stuff. That's challenging.
Yeah.
So I just love what you all shared, and those very practical pieces you shared. And I definitely I have more things I'd love to dig around, but we'll have to save it hopefully for an IG live if y'all will join.
Yeah.
So we love to do that, but I want to we always wrap up the convo with this question, which is, what's something your spouse does that makes your heart beat?
Go first.
Hold on. Wait. No, you go. I'm trying to think.
One thing that she does is my wife goes to God about everything. And I knew that my ministry was going to require a woman of prayer. And I grew up around praying women. That's all I had. My mother, my sister, my grandma, like all the women in my church, they were just women of intense prayer. And I know for a fact that I've gotten all the way up under her skin. And she'll get up out the bed, and I know where she's going. She's going into her prayer closet, because she is determined to do everything in our marriage with the help of God. And that, just as a man of God, that makes my heart beat. That makes my heart literally beat out of my chest, because I love to see that, because she's determined. Like, I'm God's son. She's God's daughter. We can't handle each other any kind of way.
Yeah.
We got to answer to God for how we treat each other.
Yeah.
So she's like, God, before I kill him, talk to me. And she's come out that closet.
Talk to me.
She's come out of that closet and just like, baby, I'm sorry.
Wow.
And that means a lot to me, because when you spend so much of your relationships in your life being firmly convinced that everything that went wrong was because you were wrong, and to finally have someone say, no, it's not you, I'm sorry. That means a lot to me. Love you.
Beautiful.
Love you.
That was beautiful.
Now for me, he has an immense portion of patience. His patience is impeccable. Like, I call him my gentle giant, because people will look at him and they assume because he's this big guy that he probably has a temper on him, or that he's probably bossing me around, but he's just so sweet and he's so patient with me. And I know sometimes when we have disagreements, I'll get a little hot-headed, but he's always just so level-headed, and he's just like, well, babe, relax. Or babe, we can just talk about this. So you just, why you got to think like that? Let's try this like this. And I just love how patient he is. He's patient with me. He's patient with other people. He's just a patient person. And that's something I really love about him. And I admire about him, that I want to pick up some too. So he's been helping me grow in that area. But I love his patience. Super patient.
I love that. This was a treat for me. I mean it. Oh, please.
And girlfriend can wear some heels. Oh my God. I love it. Good God Almighty. I'm sorry. I had to throw it. I know you were signing off, but I'm just letting you
I
know.
was like, one more
said-
holy moment.
I said, Lord, oh, I get with the Lord, please let my wife know how to walk in some hills. I ain't got no time for her around here looking like a newborn deer, trying to learn how to walk like Bambi on some skates.
Goodness.
I ain't got time for it. And I said, Lord, then she put them heels on. I said, yeah, she gonna get whatever she want today.
Today.
Yeah.
You listen to that, Kay.
Oh, yeah.
You get whatever you want. So I'm just
I'll put
saying.
them on when we get off here.
We better hurry up. No, that was an excellent thing to end with. Put on your heels and get in that prayer closet. But no, I appreciate you. You all just exude, love for God and just sheer enjoyment. I can tell that you see one another as a gift, and that really is what it is. I mean, and obviously marriage is so much more than that, but you talked about that, Smokey, of I'm paraphrasing, these weren't the exact words you used, but in my own words, you essentially were saying, like, God gave me this woman to treat as a gift.
Yep.
God gave me this man to treat as a gift.
Absolutely.
And so, he took y'all through some refining.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately for his kingdom, but truthfully, that y'all could treat and see one another as a gift, and that really is evident. So I appreciate just how honest you all were. You all just dropped gems here and there just in telling your story, because of what God did. So anyway, I look forward to catching up with you all more on
Let's do it. Let's do it.
live. We'll talk after, but enjoy your evening, you all. Just thank you so much for being a part of this. So
absolutely.
Thank you for having us. It was a joy.
Hey, anytime you need us, you pop the whip, we'll make the trip.
Yeah, hey. I'll make it to Michigan.
We'll travel. We travel.
I love it. Thank you, Taylors. Talk to y'all soon.
Love you. Take care.
All right. We're about to wrap up this episode, but before we do so, I want to share with you my heartbeat, which is what was I sensing God speaking to me as I heard Smokey and Kay's beautiful love story. And for me, it's this word, intentional. You heard us talk about it a little bit in the episode, so I'm not going to speak too long. But it struck me how God brought them both through an intentional season of healing, of refinement, of growth, and also saying no to certain people. Nope, I don't want you dating that person. I don't want you with that person. And if God so intentionally says, no, and if he intentionally says, you need to grow, because it's for a greater purpose that he's taking us to. And yes, much of that purpose is so that we can show up as healthier and holier vessels used for his glory. And, but also him working out his purpose and calling in our lives. And so we see how God was intentionally working in their lives to bring them together and that they could be used for his kingdom together. So whatever you're going through right now, whatever season, it may feel frustrating. It may feel silent. It may feel like, God, are you doing anything? Or why this is so painful? This is so hard. Maybe you're having a wonderful time. Great. But even that, God is doing something intentional in your life. He doesn't waste one moment. Not one day is wasted. And so we can trust him for what he's doing. And that should encourage us. It encourages me to think about, the things that I'm waiting on God for or asking him to work out in my life. Well, that all calls for a process. And so trust him that he is intentionally working in me, working in my circumstances to bring about his purpose and calling for my life and for yours. So I hope you all will join us. We plan to and hope to do a follow-up IG Live. Make sure you're following me on social media so you can catch all of that wonderfulness as we dig deeper. But until then, you all rest in Him and have a beautiful, beautiful week.
You are my dream. There's no me without you. You are my dream. You're what dreams are made for. You are my dream. We're a three-strand cord. When I saw you, my heart skipped a beat.
When I saw you, my heart felt complete. Yeah.
But I wasn't ready to speak.
So I took the first word I was ready to greet.
But God knew
my
we
shot,
were
baby.
meant to be.
I knew we were meant to be. Yeah. We were meant to be. Yeah.